Hello, I'm Reese, and I'm here with the team behind the Librarians. Do you guys mind introducing yourselves?
Hi, I'm Audrey Wilson Youngblood. I'm a librarian from Texas.
I'm Martha Hickson. I'm a recently retired high school librarian after 20 years from New Jersey.
I'm Kim Snyder. I'm a director and producer on the Librarians.
Hi, I'm Sarah Jessica Parker. I'm one of the executive producers of The Librarians.
Well, I kind of wanted to start with what was the genesis of this documentary?
3.5 years ago, I saw a piece on the news before this was sort of ubiquitous and everywhere about this group of brave librarians that were fighting on behalf of protecting our books and our First Amendment rights. And it was in the wake of something called the Krause List in Texas, where 850 books were, the schools were told to look at these shelves. And most of these books, almost all of them, were targeting books with race or LGBTQ themes or sex education. And so therein began a 3.5-year journey to be fortunate enough to join up with a group that people will meet in the film of amazing librarians that are on the front lines of fighting for our democracy.
Gotcha. Do you mind talking about how you first met them and also how you came on board?
Sure. Which first?
Let's start with the first one first.
Okay.
Yeah.
Most important.
Okay. So it was sort of like a Wizard of Oz thing.
Gotcha.
Where I kept
There was a
picking up-
tornado and yeah.
Yeah. In the wake of the Krause List, it did begin in Texas. And I started in several places in Texas of meeting a group of women that called themselves the Freedom Fighters.
Nice.
They were working to organize and to provide support, and they were finding one another. These two colleagues of mine in particular, Audrey, I first met in Keller, Texas, and she was the district head of a very large district with 40 librarians that she was in charge of.
Gotcha.
And was just so struck with the amount of trauma and the stories she was telling about these early days. And then I met Martha in New Jersey, who had been attacked. And that was interesting in that people might think, oh, this is just sort of a Texas, Florida thing. But here Martha was in New Jersey, not very close to where I grew up, actually. And she was connecting the dots after having been attacked and called a pedophile and groomer of children herself for simply protecting the books. And so we went on to sort of weave an odyssey across the country of what I think is a firewall and a very dangerous marker of what's happening in the country.
Gotcha. Do you want to speak to how you came on board?
Sure. I think Kim reached out. Gosh, I don't even know, what was it, about a year and a half, 2 years ago? Not maybe about a year and a half ago, and sort of communicated what she was doing to me and to Allison and Jana, actually, one of the other executive producers who I knew. And it was immediately obvious to us that if there was ways in which we could be valuable and contribute, this was something we very much wanted to support and find ways to help finance, as well as just see where, in fact, we could find a home for it that was meaningful and impactful. And for me personally, it was as necessary an endeavor as any I can think of professionally. I have a long, fairly public affection for our public libraries, for our librarians in particular, and for what those buildings and those shelves mean to young people, never mind grown-ups,
Yes.
but in particular young people and young minds of all types and all backgrounds and all religions and all faiths and all colors, who come to count on their libraries and their librarians for guidance, compassion, information, help them figure out what curiosity means and where to direct it with counsel of the child. And I just don't know of anything that's more important outside of the home than the ways in which we help our children have access to information. And I was raised in a library, in a public library. I'm one of 8 kids, so we counted on our libraries for a variety of reasons. And I can't imagine not having the ability to reach up to a shelf and make a choice. And if my mother had objections or a parent in my life, then we would talk about it. We would talk about it with our librarian. And we would come to understand the reason I reached for that. And maybe I would be convinced that it wasn't quite appropriate yet for me. But the conversation would certainly have been had with respect and civility and grace for all people involved, especially the child.
Yeah, I mean that itself like gives way to storytelling. Even just like the questioning of that. And I kind of just like the last thing I wanted to touch upon with each of you is just kind of what storytelling means to you. I mean, Sundance is obviously like it's very focused on film, but like I mean the two go hand in hand, and they're so intertwined. I'd be at a loss to not bring that up. So I kind of just wanted to know what storytelling means to each of you, why it's important that people are able to see and read and watch whatever they like, and why the libraries are so important. Yeah.
Thank you. It's a great question. I think for me in my career, storytelling allowed for every person for their innate dignity to be recognized. The act of telling the story places that person at the center and says that you are worthy, you are valuable, your experience is meaningful, and that's critical. In this moment, storytelling for me is resistance, and that's why I joined the project.
Gotcha.
For me, storytelling is representation. I was a librarian in a very small community, a very white, conservative community, but there are members of that community who don't fit that profile, and those students needed to see themselves on the shelves as well. It also involves removing boundaries. If you can't see it, you can't be it. So the world of the imagination can take you anywhere. And that's why it's so important for these books to be available for kids to choose themselves.
Gotcha. That's lovely.
Well, I've been in the space of storytelling by way of
Yeah.
documentary for, several decades, and I think these kinds of documentaries and the importance and the impact they can have, I profoundly believe in them, especially in times, unprecedented times like this. In this particular film, I really always saw it as a dystopian, modern-day Fahrenheit 451. I envisioned it like a graphic novel in a way. And in fact, with Audrey, we talked a lot. And in the beginning, she does say, we have to be out in the front. This is a story because it's about us. And it sort of begins and ends with articulating the importance of them telling their story in this particular time in history.
I guess it's kind of hard today to separate storytelling from what we're talking about because there are a million ways in which to characterize it. But
Yeah.
for today's conversation,
Yeah.
I would probably say it means compassion, imagination, and courage.
Gotcha. That's lovely. Thank you guys so much for stopping by. I'm like truly
Thank
so
you.
excited to get to watch this. And yeah, as an avid reader and avid watcher, I like this is one that I'm really looking forward to. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you
And
for
also
having
again,
us.
congrats. Yeah.
Yay!
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you so
Thank
much
you
for
guys.
having us.
Yeah, of
Thanks.
course.